In this video, we'll review tips and tricks for creating bras in VStitcher. To create padding for the bra cups, we'll use this foam material. Typically, we'd use a thickness of 3 or 4. To add the padding, we first need to duplicate the piece, then assign foam material to the new piece. Drag the new piece to inside the cup and align it, and finally use the attach feature. Once attached, the padding becomes an internal element instead of a pattern piece. We can use the magic mirror feature to replicate this padding on the other cup. To prevent the padding from moving or accidentally becoming detached, we lock it in place. And now we can see the combined physical properties of the bra fabric and the foam padding in the 3D simulation. We recommend adjusting the body shape of the avatar so it'll suit the dressing requirements of the bra. To do this, we right-click the avatar and click Edit Avatar. Then we go to the Context View, Measurements. For a push-up bra, we'll increase the push-up bra property. For a wired bra, we'll increase the wire influence property. You can now see that when we adjust the settings for these properties, the body shape changes accordingly. Also note that if we wanted to, we could adjust the body shape to cater for a pointed bra or a sports bra. However, in the present case, we are going to work with a push-up bra with wire. We save the new body shaping and dress the avatar. Now you can see the push-up bra effect. However, as you can see, the fitting is not as good as it should be because we don't have any wires. So, the next step is to add the wire. To be able to add a wire into VStitcher, you must first trace it out in BD Admin. First, we take an image of the wire, then create a bounding box around the wire, and measure the width and height. We open this image in Photoshop and crop it according to the width and length that we measured. In this way, we ensure that the image we have is proportionate to what we have in real life. Inside BD Admin, we click Wires, and then click the plus icon to add a new wire. If there are wires of different sizes, for example, a bra in different sizes, all the sizes are saved in one file. Let's add our wire and upload the image we edited. The next step is to trace the wire. To do so, we use the trace function. To be able to create an accurate and smooth trace, we can zoom in and zoom out using the scroll button on our mouse, and we can pan the view using the spacebar. You can see the length of the trace on the right side of the page. This should roughly match the measurements that we saw in the physical wire. You can always go back and edit the points of the trace, and then save the wire. Let's return to VStitcher. To add the wire to the file, we go to the main toolbar and click Insert, then Wire. A list of all the wires in the database is displayed. The new wire should show up here. If it doesn't, then we can fix that by refreshing VStitcher by closing and reopening it. When creating a wire bra, we need to have an additional piece that we stitch to the wire and then stitch to the bra. We'll start by stitching this piece to the bra with an internal line. Then we'll stitch the wire. When stitching a wire, there are several things to take into consideration. If it's a single edge to a single edge, we can stitch it with single stitching, and after clicking Dress, view the changes in the 3D window. If we want to stitch the wire to the outer side, we need to have corner points around the piece. We can't use the multi-stitch function on a wire, only single stitch. It's important to ensure that we start with the edge that is closest to being stitched to the red dot. So in that case, it will be this edge first. The stitch is twisted. To prevent this, we need to press the Control button before clicking on the wire. Once we have done the stitching for all the wire parts, VStitcher automatically distributes the wire for us. Now there is no longer a gap in the center of the bra. For the molded bra, we'll use a non-wired bra. We would like to make it molded so it stays on the bust. When creating a molded bra, we start by creating a circular pattern piece in the shape of the mold. Going to the Resources tabs, we add a new trim, which is a blank image, a PNG without a background and nothing on it. We remove the fabric from the new piece and drag in the blank image. Then we drag this piece onto the bra piece. When clicking Prepare, we don't see changes in the 3D window. We need to open the Trim's Physics and select Enable Physical Properties. Then we select Molded. By changing the depth to 2 centimeters, we see the effect is to push the cup outwards. There are a few types of molding. Mostly, we'll use parabolic. You can try the other types, but generally they are not very suitable for bras. To create the same effect on the other side, we use the magic mirror feature and finally lock each part in place. When adding trims into a bra, there's a difference between 2D or 3D trims. For 2D trims, we add an image of the trim and then assign it to a pattern piece. For example, let's add a clasp. Note that the image we're using is high quality with normal and diffuse maps. We create a pattern piece in the same size of the 2D trim, remove the fabric and add in the clasp image. We've added 4 points on the piece to be able to stitch it to the bra. Then we go to Arrange mode and add it to the back cluster. In the context menu, we'll use the clear styling option and then dress. For a more realistic look, we need to adjust the physical properties. We need to open the trim's physics and select Enable Physical Properties. Then we can use properties from the Browseware library. In this case, we'll use MISC and Hardware. For 3D trim, we'll use a bra hook. Note that there are some bra hooks in Browseware's asset library that you can download. We'll add the trim to the 2D window and in the Arrange mode, drag it onto the torso. It doesn't appear immediately in the 3D window because it's not attached to a piece and stitched. The points on the 3D trim are the connectors. We'll add points to the bra pieces as we'll be able to stitch the trim to the piece. Notice that the points are slightly away from the edge because that helps to avoid leaving a gap between the trim and the pieces. The hooks from Browseware's library have 4 connectors. We'll add 2 more connectors in the middle of the existing ones, so we have a good grip of the fabric. And then we stitch the trim to the pieces, point to point. If we find that there is a gap, we can fix this by moving the point slightly inwards. Next, we'll add the sliders and rings. Both trims are located on the straps. To add them, we need to divide the strap pattern into 2 parts, the part above the ring and the small part below it. We'll use the clone by offset with a setting of -1 and slice the pattern. We then copy the piece and use the small piece for the ring. Then we apply to both strap pieces a clone by offset of -0.3 to create internal lines and apply a clone by offset of -0.3 to the ring's pattern piece. To create the effect that the strap in the ring looks pinched, we'll shorten the internal lines of the ring's piece by half. Next, the stitching. We stitch the internal line of the small piece to the edge of the ring's piece, then the edge of the bra piece to the ring's internal line. We repeat this on the other side. Notice that we need to delete the stitches that were created after we slice the piece. Now we'll create a new fabric that is transparent. We can do this by cloning the fabric and making it 100% transparent, or as before, by importing a blank image as a new fabric and assigning it to the ring's pattern piece. Let's arrange the ring's pattern piece into the shoulders cluster. We must make sure that the stitch construction is flat. Before we add the trim, we need to arrange the 3D layers. The ring piece needs to be below the strap, so we lower it to 0 and make sure that the other pieces are above it. Then we add the trim, hide the internal lines, and that's it. Now we'll add the bra adjusters. We need to create a pattern piece for the bottom part of the strap because it's supposed to look like a double strap. We also need another small pattern piece to stitch onto the top of the adjuster trim. We'll place the adjuster around 10 centimeters from the edge. We create a rectangular piece and change the dimensions to 10 centimeters height and 1 centimeter width. The adjuster will be at the end of this piece. We then use the trace feature to create an internal line. We apply symmetry before the stitching, and then we stitch it to the first piece. We need to make sure that the new pattern piece is in a higher layer compared to the straps. Then we go to Arrange mode. We can see the result in the 3D window. There's a gap. These bras do have a slight gap, but not as large as this. If we want to adjust the gap, we can move the internal line in the 2D window, making sure that it's glued so it won't move from the pattern piece. We do want to reduce the gap, so we'll increase the distance from the edge. The next step is to place the 3D trim, drag the piece and place it on the pattern, slightly overlapping the internal line. To make sure the trim will be above the pattern, we need to check the 3D layer in the context view and change it accordingly. Maybe we'll need to use the pinch tool a little to get the trim into place. After setting the slider in place, we add 2 lines within the trim. The lines will be shorter than the trim to create a crunched up look. We then create a small pattern piece, the size of the slider, that is placed above the trim. And then we can stitch the pattern to the internal lines and, of course, change the 3D layer order accordingly, so it'll be above the slider. We use arrange mode for these new pieces, and then we see everything in the 3D window. Here, we can use the pinch tool to make adjustments, or we can make adjustments by moving the internal lines. There you go! If we use a 2D trim, the workflow has the same logic. Arrange first, then adjust the physical properties. The straps are based on an elastic band that was scanned and uploaded to the software. To scan the elastic bands, we use dbadmin. Before using the fab, we need to ensure that the elastic band test checkbox is selected. Then we click Use Fab. We're only testing the stretch in the length. Lace requires a lot of cleaning up after doing the scan. When using a Visu scan, we'll use the image of the diffuse map. Then, in Photoshop, we need to make sure that it's tiled and repeated. We can see this very nicely in the 3D window. We'll also use the normal map. The Visu scanner provides all the maps. However, if you're not using Visu, you can create a normal map in Photoshop. When using lace, the pattern has to change a little because we need to accommodate the straps. Here, for example, we upload the lace as fabric and expand it so it matches the straps right down to the bottom. If we want to create the straps as a seam, we create a fabric file of the lace and the straps as separate images. Here, for example, the lace is like a normal fabric. The edge, which is on a separate piece, is created by cropping the straps in Photoshop and assigning the material as a seam. At the end of the lace, there's a line created due to the thickness of the fabric. We can go into the physical properties and change the thickness to 0, and the line disappears. If we don't want to change the thickness, for example, if we're using the lace as a seam, we can click on the line and in the context view, change the finish effect to none. And that's everything you need to know about bras. For more information, check out our help center, support.browseware.com.